Every day I get comments on my CFOP videos of people asking how they can memorize cubing algorithms. Well, my friends, today you're in luck because in this video, I'm going to show you my top 3 tips, tricks, and hacks I've picked up over the years to memorize any cubing algorithm as efficiently as possible. And at the end of this video, I'll walk you through some examples of how I would use all of these techniques to learn a real algorithm. So the first technique is called chunking. Basically, it's breaking a long algorithm down into smaller parts so that it's easier to learn. For example, here is the algorithm for this .OLL case that has these 2 yellow bars on the sides. First of all, let's talk about these brackets in the algorithm. These are used to denote triggers, which are commonly recurring set of moves that you'll see across various different algorithms. This particular trigger is dubbed the sledgehammer trigger. And you can see it actually comes up twice in this algorithm, and it also comes up in a lot of other algorithms. We can use these triggers to help break the alg down into smaller parts. So for example, for this algorithm, we can say that we have these 4 parts that we want to learn. So for the first part, RU to R prime, let's repeat these moves a few times. So this is how you're supposed to hold the algorithm. We're going to do RU to R prime. That's it. I'm not going to do the rest of the algorithm. I'm just going to practice this a few times. I'm going to undo what I just did, practice that again. Once you have that down, let's do the next part, which is the sledgehammer trigger. So R prime, F, R, F prime. So that's all it is. We're going to practice that a few times. So I'm just going to undo this, try it again. If undoing the set of moves is too confusing or taking too long, don't worry about it too much. Just keep repeating the algorithm without undoing the moves. It'll mess up the cube, but right now we just want to practice the hand movements anyway. So let's just run through that again. RU to R prime, that's the first part. Then we learned R prime, F, R, F prime. That's the second part. Now the third part is just a U2. Pretty easy to just tack that onto the end. We're just bringing this F2L pair to the front. And now finally the last part is another sledgehammer trigger, which we've already learned, so just apply that and we're done. R prime, F, R, F prime. So we already know the trigger, and that's the algorithm. So that's the beauty of triggers. They come up a lot, and you only have to learn them once. So you can see it's a lot easier to learn an algorithm when you break it down into smaller, easier to learn parts. Now the tricky part is knowing exactly how we're supposed to break an algorithm down. Triggers do help a lot, but I'm going to show you this next technique, which is going to help you immensely. The next technique is called visual pattern recognition. When you're executing an algorithm, look around the cube to see what the pieces are doing as you execute it. Now, the best way to recognize these patterns is to watch what's happening with the F2L pairs and other edges on the cube that you've already solved, that you may have noticed me pointing to. For example, remember that sledgehammer trigger that we just did? Instead of memorizing those 4 moves by their notation, what if we thought about it in terms of there being like an F2L pair right here that we're inserting into this slot using a weird sledgehammer type of trick? So take a look at these 2 pieces. We're going to insert them into here, R prime, F, R, F prime, and they just go directly into that slot. Here's the F2L pair. You can see by doing the sledgehammer, it goes into its slot. So just thinking about the cube in terms of these pieces moving around is really, really helpful. For example, if I was learning this fish OLL case, first I'd go through the algorithm 1 or 2 times to understand and look at the cube and see what's happening. So here are the first couple of moves, right? The first 3 moves, they're just taking out this edge piece. This is our cross edge piece. We just took it out into the front layer or the top layer. Now what the next part of the algorithm does is it moves it over to the other side, and it's simply reinserting it back into where it came from. So you can see that it just went back where it came from, and that's all the algorithm is. So if you think about it in terms of that edge piece, here we bring it to the other side, and we're going to put it back down the same way that we took it out by using the middle layer. And see, we're going to connect it with the center piece, and then use the middle layer to push it back down. Now you might be wondering, how exactly are you supposed to use all these techniques to practice the algorithms if every time you solve the cube you're getting a different OLL or PLL case that you're not even trying to learn? How are you supposed to get the case that you want to learn? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you how to get the case that you want to practice, but also The way that you should be actually doing the pattern recognition is by looking at what's happening with the F2L pairs and the cross edge pieces, as those patterns will be the same no matter what OLL case you have. For example, if I wanted to learn this TOLL case, on the left you see the proper case that would solve this OLL, and on the right is a random other OLL case. But when I execute the algorithm, on both you'll see I remove the front right F2L pair and insert it into the same slot with a sledgehammer move. So focus on the F2L pairs to recognize patterns, as they will be the same no matter what case you have. And then you don't have to worry about having the proper case that you want to learn. Now, having said that, it is still useful to actually practice using the case that you want to learn from, because it helps you recognize that. The way I get to the case that I want to learn is actually just by executing the algorithm that I'm trying to learn from a solved cube state. You can actually get most PLL cases from a solved cube by executing the algorithm only once or twice. For OLL cases, you'll likely have to repeat the algorithm several times to get the case you're learning. Like for this lightning bolt case, I had to do it 5 times, and the 6th time solves the cube again. It might seem like a bit of a waste of time, but you're actually repeating the algorithm that you want to learn, and it's really just helping you practice it, right? It's just helping you drill it into your muscle memory. Now let's do an example with this N-Perm. If I was trying to learn this case, I'd first slowly execute the notation while watching what's happening on the cube. So let's do that. I'm going to slowly start executing this, R prime, U, L prime, and I see like it's moving these F2L pairs out. And also notice I started from a solved cube position because I'm just going to focus on the F2L pairs. I don't really need to be in the actual N-Perm case. So now I'm actually putting this F2L pair in the back right slot like this, and then this back right F2L pair is going to go into the front right slot. So effectively I just swapped the back right F2L pair with the front left F2L pair. And then the next part of the algorithm just actually happens to just repeat the first half. So that makes it really easy. We're just going to basically swap these F2L pairs again, but starting with an R prime to bring the back right to the front, bring the front left one up, and you'll see kind of like creates this connection. Now we bring this F2L pair back into its original slot, insert it, and then this blue-red F2L pair into its front left slot where it came from, and that actually brings us to the N-Perm that we are trying to solve for, because I started from a solved cube position. Let's take a look at another example of this cross OLL case. There's not really any good triggers in this algorithm, but that's okay because we're going to determine the chunks by watching how the algorithm works. Again, we're going to start by slowly executing it to understand what's happening. The first 2 moves are just taking this F2L pair out, right? We take the front right F2L pair out with the RU2. Then the algorithm wants us to do an R2, okay, and then a U prime. So those 2 moves kind of like take out the other F2L pair, and you create this like parallel F2L pairs, and they create these headlights. So I can kind of use that to help me remember what's happening on the cube and how to remember the algorithm. Then I need to do an R2, and I can think of it as this edge piece needs to face the front like this, and then we want to connect this F2L pair back onto this one with a U prime. Then do an R2 to bring it back to the other side so that we can connect this F2L pair back to where it came from, and do an R. The very first time it's definitely going to seem a bit confusing what I just did, but if you go slowly, execute it, and then you'll start to get the hang of it. These 2 F2L pairs come out. We do an R2 to connect this, do another R2, and we want to bring this back to where this came from. So, and then notice how I just started from a solved OLL case, repeated the algorithm once to get the OLL case that I wanted, and then this is how I would just keep repeating the algorithm until I get the hang of it. If you just focus on what's happening visually, it's going to help you memorize the algorithm a lot faster. So to summarize, when you're learning any algorithm, whether OLL, PLL, 4x4, whatever it is, break the algorithm down and practice each part one by one instead of practicing the whole algorithm at once. make sure to watch the pieces on the cube like F2L pairs, cross pieces, corner pieces to understand what the algorithm you're applying is really doing, and use that to help you remember rather than the cube notation. And finally, make sure you're practicing effectively by repeating the algorithm as much as possible so it can become a muscle memory over time. This is going to involve executing the algorithm on a solved cube a few times until you get the case that you wanted, and then you can practice how to hold that case and how to recognize it and whatnot. But don't waste time waiting for that case to come up naturally during your solves. Oh, and one last thing, make sure to learn algorithms one by one. I see a lot of people trying to learn like everything at once. Whatever case they get naturally, they look up the algorithm for that and apply it. That's also really inefficient. So just find a list of algorithms that you want to learn, pick one, and then just start executing it to learn it. Anyway, guys, that was it for this video. I really hope you found it helpful. Leave a comment, let me know what you thought. Leave a like if you did find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.